Hey guys, I wanted to update everybody on a recent change in the law as a result of a case that went up through the Supreme Court of Massachusetts. It's particularly important because I'd also done a video on this subject a few months back, and this law does affect some of what we said in that video. And the change has to do with when the police can actually take blood. And in that video, I think it was called Can the Police Draw Blood Without a Warrant? I talked about the two ways in which they could do that. The law did allow, it does allow in most cases, for the police to draw blood if they have either a search warrant to do so issued by the courts or if they have your consent to do so. And this change came out in November. The SJC, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, came out with a new case that specifically deals with the police's attempt to draw blood when in relation only to a drunk driving case, only to an operating under the influence case. And so it is a little limited to only those types of cases, but it's an important change. And basically, in that case, they said that even though the Constitution allows the police to draw blood if they get a warrant from the court, that there's a particular law in the drunk driving law as part of the implied consent law that says that if you refuse to consent to them drawing blood or otherwise making you take any kind of a blood or breath test, that they can't force you to do it. So that involves also, they can't force you to take the breathalyzer test. But this case was important because in this particular case, the person refused to have his blood drawn at the hospital after a serious accident involving drunk driving. And the police, when they got a warrant from the courts, and they actually had to hold the guy down on his hospital bed in order to take the blood. And basically what the court said was, even though the Constitution allows it, this particular Massachusetts law says that if the person doesn't consent to having their blood taken, then you can't do it, and we're not going to force it. So it only in the context of a drunk driving case, if you do not consent to having your blood taken, the police will not be able to do it. Now, as a result, in other types of cases, let's just say it was like a murder investigation or something else where they did obtain a warrant to draw your blood, they could still do that with either, again, a search warrant issued by the courts or obtaining your consent. And the last point I want to make on this is simply to reiterate something that I say all the time, is that you should never give your consent, okay? In any type of case, whenever they're asking for your consent, you have every right to always say no. This includes now a blood draw in a drunk driving case, and if you do say no, they have to respect that in this type of case as well. So the only way they're going to ever get your blood in a drunk driving case is if you say, okay, you can take it and give your consent. My advice to everybody is to never do that, and that way they will never be able to take your blood without your consent in a drunk driving case. So if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email, or leave me a comment below the video. I'll be happy to speak with you about it.